Mortgage rates dropped sharply ahead of the Fed's long-awaited rate cut, and homeowners jumping at the chance. Demand for mortgages skyrocketed, with many rushing to refinance and lock in lower payments. Refinancing now makes up nearly 60% of all new mortgage applications. That's the highest level since January of 2022. And Katrina, oftentimes when I'll ask some of the old-timers that did buy with higher rates that we've seen historically, I'll say, how did you manage? What is different from that, then to now? And they would say, well, I got the higher rate and I kept refinancing on my way down. So ultimately, I ended up at a place that was comfortable for me, and now I'm staying put. If you want to get into the housing market and, you're a little bit nervous, but you see the rates are coming down now, can that be your strategy?
I actually did that myself, Jackie, not with my first home, but with my second home. I did a 7-year ARM at that time because I really needed to purchase. And then I refinanced and I ended up getting 2.75%. And I have that property because I'm not one of those sellers that doesn't want to sell because of that rate. I just rent it out. I turned it into a rental property. I do think it's incredibly interesting that refinancing applications have now surged 57.7% week over week, which is definitely positive news. But as we were discussing in the last segment, I also called all of my mortgage broker friends, and I'm like, okay, so what are you seeing? This is what I'm feeling. And a lot of them told me that they were able to lock in really great rates the last 2 weeks because the market anticipated, a reduction. So they were
by really great rates. You're like in the low sixes.
Yeah,
which is great. It's great for the recent contact. It's not.
Or 5.85%, like one of them told me. Obviously it depends on your credit score and your LTV and everything else. But he says now he couldn't get that. So he did say to me, though, he would advise, on possibly getting an ARM and then refinancing. It's like that old saying says, Jackie, right? What is it? Marry the house, not the rate.
What's that? Date the rate.
Date the rate. Yeah. And so you can always refinance later on.
Forgive me, panel, because we have Katrina. I just have to ask you a follow-up on this. So the problem would be, I think, if you're looking to get in and you're waiting for rates to come down back to that 3% level, the sellers that we talked about who are reluctant to sell right now, who are taking their listings off the market, are waiting for that too, because they know they'll get top dollar or more as a result of it. And so maybe it is a smarter thing to do to get in a little higher and play the bet on the rates going down, because if you wait too long and the prices go up too high, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Which I think is what's going to happen. I think that as the mortgage rates come down, I think more sellers will get on the market, and then demand will increase, and then prices are going to continue to go up. I don't think we'll have a bidding war like we had during COVID. It's interesting though, because it depends on where in the country, because then you're seeing a lot of on the on the west and east coast of Florida, you're seeing a lot of people, as we were discussing, take their properties off the market. So I think in 2026 you're going to see a flood of houses back in the market when mortgage rates are lower. So I think it really is very regional. But I do, Jackie, agree with you that I think some buyers are going to end up paying more money for that same property, once rates go down. So then the debate is, why not buy now and refinance later?
It costs money to refinance, though, also.
Yeah, so you got to do the math on that. But, I've also been interested, and you mentioned adjustable rate mortgages, ARMs. Their popularity has kind of ticked up quite a bit again.
I'm shocked
recently.
by that after the housing crisis. They make me nervous. Shocked.
So can I just say, I throw this open, but Katrina, I have the same reaction. I think it's a little bit, it's a sign maybe of desperation, needing to get a lower rate initially because you can't afford the house without the lower rate. And I have a lot of visions. And 2008 was complicated, but one of the pieces of that was big interest rate bets that people lost on. I think there's this great hope the Fed's really going to slash rates. You just saw in the report yesterday, they don't seem to have that same view. What do you say to somebody when they come to you and say, I think I might do an ARM on this?
Well, I think most people stay. I think the average amount of years now is like 10 years that people stay in their home. So it's actually gone up. So if you do like a 7-year ARM, for instance, when I was in that position, I thought to myself, I'm very conservative when it comes to what I could afford. So I think not overextending yourself. But I figured, okay, I'll probably be in this property the most for 7 years. And even if I stay there longer, I can refinance. But I think budgeting, to your point, Brian, is really important. And also making sure, I think there's a reality check that happens because people don't take into effect property taxes and insurance, right? And then also expenses. As much as I am love real estate, something's always going to go wrong. You just have to understand that, whether it's the roof, whether it's something leaking, the plumber, electricians. I think electricians are actually going to get more expensive now because of AI. And then when we discussed this, I think last time, is when you call a plumber, how long does it take to actually get an appointment? I'm still waiting for one on one property, and it's been a week and a half.
They're in high demand.
Yes,
Very
that's why
high demand.
skills, to your other
Yes.
point, Brian, are so important for young kids to actually learn skills as opposed to just sitting there and being tested 24/7 in school.
One of the problems has been if you're a family, for example, expanding family, and your space that you have, Lauren, right now, let's say, I'm giving an example, is too small, but you say to yourself, well, with the rates where they are and prices where they are, where am I going to go?
I know.
Especially if you have one of those low mortgages. I'm not going to sell this because there's nowhere for me to
stuck.
go. In the scenarios that we're describing here, the equation doesn't really change if prices stay high and continue to go up, but it would still, I guess, make a transfer easier.
I think a lot of people right now, and I could cede some of my time to you on this, with the job market. The job market is weakening,
Yep.
right? So you can't get a mortgage no matter what the price of the house is or how low the rate is if you don't have a job. So do you think that people are going to say, let me just stick with my smaller house even though I need a bigger house, or just stay put because I'm worried I might not have this career in 6 months?
And that's such a great point, because I know so many people that tried to refinance or tried to restructure, and they didn't have a job, or they were trying to get a job and couldn't get that job, so they were declined. You know, so I think jobs and wages are just so incredibly important. Credit card debt as well. That's another thing that I'm seeing with, the younger generation, is just, buy now, pay later. And then they're paying like 20%. You're never going to get out of that mess. And so, one other thing I want to mention is modular homes have become more and more popular. So I'm seeing that as well,
Yeah.
where it's like the tiny home concept. So if your, mother moves back in with you, or if you have teenage kids and you want them close but not too close, you basically can buy a modular home on your property. And then later on, it could become like an ADU or rental. It could become passive income for you as well. So I'm beginning to see a lot of that in Florida, because the zoning allows for that.
That's a huge zoning question, though. There are a lot of places where
That don't-
Or,
they are like, no, you're not doing that.
or Brian, you could live in an Airstream. Some people do it.
I
I'm just
love
saying.
Airstreams. Yes.